To the top, here I go, think I'm chosen to be the king of rock, think the people have spoken. I can hear the tick-tock of the clock, I'm in motion. So now I'm gonna pop, causing all this commotion.
Hey everyone, first off I want to apologize for the possible poor quality of this video. I'm sitting outside my home in my truck, and I'm trying not to talk very loud because we live in a condo and I'm trying not to disturb my neighbors. I know Eric himself lives in an apartment, as I believe some of the other guys do as well, and you know, they know what it's like to try to make sure you don't disrupt the neighbors, especially when you live with a homeowners association. So a lot of times I do record my, well, I shouldn't say a lot of times, pretty much every time I record for the fun fact and trivia segment on the show, I'm doing it from my truck. That's because I'm normally at work when I do it, just taking time on my break to cut the video for everyone. But I wanted to take this time. Eric said that it was perfectly all right to do so, to kind of speak on the unfortunate passing of New Jack. I know that Eric, Brandon, and Damon shared some of their brief thoughts on their recent show, and I know that they didn't have a whole lot of knowledge of New Jack, and I, for one, will not pretend that I am a great expert on New Jack. I know Tony thought a lot of him, and he was not able to be on the most recent show, but will be sharing his thoughts as soon as he can. And I know he's taking it pretty hard because New Jack was a great influence to him. And I just want to say I was never the biggest New Jack fan. There's a lot of things about him that did not click with me, you know, and it's not so much his wrestling as just some of the stuff, you know, he did. But, you know, I'm not one to judge. You know, I know he had a hard life. You know, I've been doing a little bit of reading up on him as I prepared for this video. And I just wanted to share a little bit about his career. My first introduction to New Jack actually was, I think one of his first actual big breaks was wrestling in the USWA, the United States Wrestling Association in Memphis, working for Jerry Lawler and that group. He wasn't quite the hardcore extreme wrestler that we came to know, and for some of you love. He's just, he had the street gimmick going. He called himself New Jack. The inspiration from everything I've read came from the movie New Jack City, which, you know, quite honestly, never saw it. You know, not saying I won't in the future, but for right now, never saw it. And I remember he began tag teaming with this white guy whose name escapes me, and I apologize, but I can guarantee you the guy never went on to do much of anything else in the business. I think he was just mostly enhancement talent, if he ever did go to one of the big organizations. But they gave him the gimmick of being simply called Homeboy. And yes, it's about as ridiculous as it sounds. And they won the USWA tag titles from a team called Simply Divine, Rex King and Steve Dahl, who some of you who followed the WWF in the mid-90s would know them better as Timothy Well and Stephen Dunn, the team of Well Done, managed by Harvey Wimpleman. Obviously, that was doomed from the start, but that's another story for another time. Their tag title reign only lasted for a couple weeks as they dropped the titles to a team called Principal C.W. Bergstrom, who made his name in the Pacific Northwest mostly, and his quote-unquote student, Melvin Penrod Jr., who, the best way I can describe him was he was a short guy, very overweight, and if you want to have a comparison, if you've ever seen the movie Stand By Me, and the scene where they're telling the story of the pie eating contest and the fat kid in that gets made fun of, picture that being Melvin Penrod Jr. That's basically how he looked. But I digress. New Jack didn't stick around in USWA very long. He went to other indie promotions and eventually he was in a Georgia promotion that's name escapes me right now, where he first hooked up with Mustafa Saeed and formed the Gangstas. And I know they were not there together very long before they wound up in Smoky Mountain Wrestling out of Knoxville, Tennessee, working for Jim Cornette, and the owner and operator of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and would actually enter into a feud with Jim Cornette, having Jim Cornette turning himself babyface to actually manage his longtime rivals, the Rock and Roll Express. And that's where New Jack and Mustafa Saeed really cut their teeth on really getting the gangster gimmick going. And I think, I shouldn't say gimmick, because I think in a lot of ways that wasn't a gimmick for them. That was who they were, especially New Jack. And a little fun fact for you, those of you that don't know, the Gangsters actually had two other guys in the group in Smoky Mountain. One, I think his name is Killer Kyle, and I was doing some research on him. He was nothing more than an enhancement talent whenever he would be in WCW or the WWE. So we'll move on from him and actually get to the other famous member of that group, wound up being D'Lo Brown, of all people. And that was one of D'Lo's first big breaks before he wound up going to the WWF to be part of the Nation with Ron Simmons as Farouk. Ron Simmons was Farouk. But, yeah, they had a long feud there, and Smoky Mountain Wrestling with the Rock and Roll Express. And I apologize as my lights just went off. Some of the joys of working in doing the gimmick from my truck here. Apologize for that. So, how nice it's starting to rain here. But yeah, he wound up in, after that going to ECW, where he really, became the New Jack everybody grew used to. And I know he went through a lot of, troubles in his career, and there's not much I can say. I was never one to really enjoy the almost every time he was out there gimmick of let's take a trash can out there full of weapons and just start hitting people. And I think if that wasn't kind of how ECW was like, maybe I would have appreciated it more. But it seemed like the majority of the time I was watching ECW, chairs were getting used, these weapons were getting used, but that's a personal preference, to each their own. And New Jack obviously did a great job in cutting his teeth there and really living what I don't think was his gimmick. It was who he was. I know he, as I said, he didn't have the world's best upbringing. He saw things I couldn't even imagine. And as like I said before, I wasn't the world's biggest New Jack fan, but I hate to see somebody pass at such a young age. I know for some 58 is maybe not a young age to some, but in many, many ways to a lot of us, it is very young. And I don't know if he had any children or not. I apologize for not knowing a lot about, the personal life of New Jack. It's, it's still sad that he is gone. I do hope that maybe he found some peace in his life in these later years. I thought his episode of Dark Side of the Ring was very compelling. I enjoyed it. And, I do send my thoughts and prayers to his friends and family. And, Godspeed to him. The last thing I want to say, of course, is I hope I didn't bore you too much here. I hope you hit like. I hope you hit subscribe to the podcast. And I plan to be shooting another video here soon. And I hope you check it out. And if you don't check it out, that's fine too. But make sure you check out the other shows on the web, on the channel. So I hope you all have a great night.
Yeah, ready to go, man, lock and load. That's right, I swear to God that I could drop you, bro. Yeah, I got a shot and I ain't stopping, no. That's how I know that I'm unstoppable.